From One of One Production Studios, broadcasting from NYC, you are listening to Unexpected Success with your host, Joy.
Okay, hey, welcome back. Another episode of Unexpected Success with Joy. And in the studio today, we have Amber Forrester.
Hello.
Hey. Pretty girl.
Miss Beautiful. Happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy that you're here. So many things to talk about. So as you know, we've discussed like the podcast is just really trying to feature entrepreneurs and, you know, how you pivot and how you start and, you know, and how you kind of fight through the difficult times that we all go through, right?
Yes.
So I mean, you know, for those of you who don't know Amber, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I like to refer to myself as a serial entrepreneur. Ever since I picked up a shovel and started shoveling porches in my neighborhood for money in the wintertime.
I love that.
I got excited about making money on my own. I love business, and I've owned a few of them. My last one, for about 9 years, I had a company called Cane & Couture. We did designer dog apparel, collars, harnesses, leashes, carriers.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
And so what led you to that? I mean, that just seems so much off the beaten path.
I am such an off the beaten path type of person.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's a part of what led me to it. I've always enjoyed taking the path less traveled. And so I loved fashion and I loved business. And my first business was actually an events company. And so from there, I said, I want a product-based company. And so when I started thinking about different products that I could have and what I loved, because I really believe that what you love should be at the base of what you do, I thought, okay, I love dogs. I take my dog with me everywhere. And people are always asking, like, where did you get this bag, or where'd you get this jacket? And I would take these little simple pieces and put patches on them or dress them up in some way, just because I felt like I couldn't find the things that I wanted my dog to look cute in at the stores. And then I thought,
was this before or after you had children?
This was before I had children.
Right. Okay.
So this was in 2008.
Okay.
So really smart of me to start a business when the whole world was collapsing.
I know. Like you started a business in 2008. All right.
Well, you know, in 2008, I don't think we really knew how bad it was going to be.
I think that's right.
You know, because had it been 2009,
right? Yeah. I probably should have waited. Then I was underwater and like the whole ... Right?
Exactly. Same here.
Right.
But not knowing what I didn't know, I started the business, and so I always explain to people, a pet fashion company is the same as a human fashion company. It's just the patterns are different, but it's the same process.
Right.
And I found excitement in the process of being able to be creative, as well as using my business mind on the marketing and the sales and the strategy side. And so that's a part of what took me into it. I didn't know fashion well enough to do fashion for humans, and there's so many fashion companies I would have to compete with, but I saw an opening in the market for a pet fashion company.
So amazing.
Because there were all these amazing statistics about the pet industry and how many people had pets and how much money the industry was making.
Spending on actually, you know, I mean, how much money is spent on like dog coats and shoes.
$62 billion.
Insanity.
I said billion. I was like, oh, I want a piece of that.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So
that's what got me into it. Yeah.
So that's what got you into it. And then I guess, how did you find the financing to be able to do the production and to actually manufacture dog gear?
My dog gear?
Yeah.
So I had, two things. I saved up my own personal funds. I was a responsible young lady.
I love it. I love it. Pisces, Al.
Right? So I saved up. I took $25,000 of my personal savings, and I got a $25,000 line of credit. Okay. And I took that $50,000. I went. I started off in the garment district, and I was going around the garment district and I remember my first set of samples I had made on 38th Street, and I did all of these like bootleg tech packs, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was still figuring it out. And I got all my samples, and the arms went straight out like human arms. And I put it on my dog, and it looked like big man in a little man's coat. And it was like stretched over his back the wrong way. And I'm like, okay, that was wrong. And I spent all this money on samples that didn't work. And so I was getting somewhat frustrated. And one of the trim shops that I was going to was owned by this Korean guy, John. And John really liked what I was doing. He was like, you got some good stuff here. So he connected me with a woman, Kumi, who had a sourcing company out of Korea. And she was coming in town. It was Divine Order. She was coming in town to visit, and I met with her. And she looked at my designs and she said, you need to come to Korea and meet with the factories there. Let's go to the markets.
Oh, wow.
So in Korea, you can literally buy discounted fabric. You can go right to the factories. Like, it's kind of like.
So you went?
I went. Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay.
I went in 2008. I told my girlfriend, I was like, want to go to Korea? And she's like, yeah. I was like, let's go. So we went for like 2 weeks.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And this was before children.
Right, again, before children. Like right, exactly, exactly.
So, yeah, we went and I created my first line.
At the time, where were you living?
I was living in Miami at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been working for Fiji Water. I had moved down there for a couple of years in between living here. And so I had the flexibility. I went. And I spent, I always tell people, like, when you want to start a business, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. Just make a list of things that you need to do and do at least one of them every day or every couple days or every week, whatever you have time for.
That's really great advice, right? Just progress yourself, and I feel like there's having people in your life that help you progress even a slight bit, right? Every single day. I think that like you're moving forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not as, it's more digestible, right?
It is.
And you feel like you're doing something towards the end goal.
Because people get so overwhelmed with
get
these
with
ideas.
The results, right, with what you want, where you want to be. And so it can paralyze you and make you say, well, I can't get there.
Yeah, but you can. You just got to take little steps getting there.
So then, so you go to Korea. You are able to now manufacture your products there.
Yeah.
You have a line. Mm-hmm. Then what?
So I did a trade show.
Okay.
So I had my first line. I had 4 collars, 4 harnesses, 4 leashes, 4 T-shirts, and 4 hoodies, and a bed and bowls. And I took it to a trade show, and I got a really good response. And I started right away getting orders, which doesn't always happen because you think when you build it, they will come. And that is so not true because there's like marketing, sales,
I heard that from
else.
somebody recently. I forget. Like they say that if you build it, it'll come, but that's not always. It doesn't always happen that way. You have to do a substantial amount of marketing to kind of an awareness, right? Because it's a competitive field.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot more competitive now than it was then.
Right.
But so it was competitive, and it was there was a lot to learn. But I'm not one that's ever. I don't really consider failure when I do things. It's like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do my best, and I'm forgiving of myself of how things turn out. So at my first trade show, I remember I thought, I'm going to go. And my goal was to make $30,000.
Right.
And I didn't.
Right. And that's okay. Right.
But I went and I made, I think I made like between 15 and 20,000. I paid for my booth, and I had enough money from the trade show to then put back into the business to keep growing it. And most importantly, I got out there and I met people. And I think it was my second trade show, I attracted a buyer from Henry Bendels who,
oh, wow.
So I had some early successes with the business that allowed me to position me to do pretty well. So I did a trunk show for a week at Henry Bendels, and I was with these dog companies that have been around for years, and I'm like a year in.
Right.
I met some of my best customers. They still buy stuff from me to this day, even
so
as
you
I'm
still
closing
maintain
the company.
it, right? So you
are
closing. Okay,
yeah.
so
I just I wanted to do new things and move on to what I'm doing.
Right.
Now.
Okay, so so that's an amazing story, and it's an amazing way to kind of start just discussing, your drive and your passion, how you were able to just kind of like have an idea, go with it, make it happen, and like you said, things happen kind of in divine order, right?
Yeah.
But like, so give us more, I guess. Tell us where you're from, like, what's your upbringing, who inspires you, like how, because I think all of that kind of plays a pretty huge part in how you just jump out the window and start businesses, right?
It does. It does. Right. It does. I always say I get my grind from Detroit. I am from the D, proudly. Ow. I was born and raised in Detroit. I'd lived in California for a few years as a young child, but I come from a family of my mama's side and my daddy's side are really different.
Right. I think that's the case for a lot of people.
Like opposites attract.
Right.
But it made for a well-rounded child, I like to say. But I actually came from a family of people who worked regular jobs, if you will.
Right.
Like good regular jobs, but working for universities, Wayne State, Michigan University, working for municipalities, the cities in Detroit. And so in seeing that, it gave a stable life for them, but I always knew that I wanted something more.
Right.
I decided at 18 when I went to Detroit Country Day School, and I decided that I wanted to go away for school. I had a full scholarship to U of M. But I was like, I don't want to stay in Michigan. I need to get, you spend the first 18 years of your life in your parents' home and you get put kind of in this box.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to bust out of that box. I was like, I'm a butterfly, the cocoon,
right.
This whole.
I'm busting through this.
I'm
like,
busting through and I don't want to stay in a place that's going to confine me. And so I moved to New York knowing nobody.
That's amazing.
And went to Fordham University, worked full time in college, hustled. I got my first job at the NBA store because I wanted to meet people. And that was when hardwood jerseys.
So smart. Right. That was
I met
huge.
so many. I literally still know like super cool folks today who are like, I remember I met you at the NBA store
that's so
when I was
amazing.
in college.
Yeah.
And then I worked for the radio station, and I just have always been intentional about building my network, knowing that I love
where you wanted to go, essentially, not having a true destination, but knowing that you wanted to move that way, right? Whatever way that was, right?
Yeah, and always just being intentional about positioning myself to move up, to keep, moving up, and being okay with the process. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
People say now, so many people, but I didn't know one person when I moved to New York. I knew not one person here.
Yeah, and I think that there's people, that we both know that have done that and figured it out.
Yeah,
right.
You can if you don't let the fear of it intimidate you.
Right.
I looked at it as exciting.
Right. I mean, that's pretty exciting, like not knowing anybody and kind of like in this huge place, cold place, because New York can be kind of cold, right?
Right. Everyone's
like,
you're
brutal.
Not from here, are you?
Right,
Like,
right.
why? Because I'm friendly?
I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. Right. So then who inspired you? And I know your parents must have been going crazy about the fact that you like moved to New York.
What?
Like, I know that had to be like, what do you mean you're moving to New York? You're 18, like, and living in New York.
Yes.
Right.
They totally were. And it was so funny because when I moved here, my family was afraid of New York and people here were afraid of Detroit. They were like, "Ooh, you're from Detroit."
No, seriously, because I never had any reference to Detroit. Like you just see what you see on television, right?
Yeah.
And it just looks so. It's like, oh my God, don't go to Detroit,
right?
You know what I mean?
But if you think look at us as brown people. If you didn't know anything about brown people and you looked at us on Love and Hip Hop, you would say the same thing. It's like
no, it's
sometimes
so true.
the best parts don't always get displayed.
No, absolutely. So. Listen, the revolution will not be televised, right?
Right. Exactly.
All right. So then, I guess who inspired you? Yeah, inspirational people.
I think in ways my family supported me. I can't necessarily always say that they inspired me, and I have an amazing family, so I don't mean that in any negative way, but they just were that wasn't the direction I wanted to go in. So who inspired me? I was my mom was amazing to help me get into this great school, Detroit Country Day School, and it's one of the top schools in Michigan, and it's a private school. And so there are a lot of parents. A lot of the kids had these really successful parents. One of my friends, her mom and dad owned Honey Baked Ham. Another girl, her dad owned ADT Security Systems.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right? So these people, and they're like mega rich, and I'm in there on scholarship, and I'm like, I always say, like, you're either jealous or you're inspired. I'm inspired. I'm not a jealous person.
Absolutely. Right.
So I'm like, these kids' parents are rich. So I'm going over to their houses and I'm like, they're like, where's Amber? I'm sitting with their parents. Like, so
how did you
do this? Because I was so inspired. It was my first, they say if you believe it, you can achieve it.
Right.
So I was learning to believe it at that point. It wasn't so far away from me anymore. It wasn't like, oh, these rich folks or anything. It was like, I'm in the house with someone who's accomplished all of what has brought them this. And I'm literally sitting there, and they loved me because they're like, this little curious girl, like, they're out, their kids don't care. They're like entitled, they're privileged, they're jumping in there. Literally, my friends have pools with the roofs that opened and everything. And I'm in these houses like, I didn't even know this existed in this area.
And so it's so interesting. I didn't have friends like that, but I'm always interested in knowing, when you leave those kind of those huge homes, right? Like they're compounds, right?
They're literally
and you go
compounds.
back to your home.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I felt like I got my notebook out, and I can literally look in my journals now from when I was a teenager, and I would write about how I was going to be that successful.
I love it.
It never bothered me.
It's because and we're both moms now, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that our kids probably go to school with kids that have more, like, or was
especially in this area.
In this area, right?
Shout out to the Gold Coast.
Right. So I'm always wondering because my eldest will say, Mom, like they have a real, like their house is huge. Or Mom, look at a little baby house. Oh, I like that little cute little baby house. And like, she'll like, oh, I'm coming back to my little baby house. And I'm like, I feel a way about her calling my house a baby house.
You're like,
what do you
work
mean?
hard for this baby house, girl.
Right.
You don't pay no baby bills.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And I always wonder the impact, right?
Yeah.
Of, going to on a play date at a very elaborate house and Jet kind of like playing with toys that are bigger than hers, right? And then coming back and playing with her little baby toys in our little baby house.
Yeah.
And the effect that's going to have on her. But I think it's inspirational to me to know that you went through that. And again, you weren't jealous of it. You were inspired by it.
Yeah, it's a part of the conversation.
Right.
So then that sparks a conversation to have with your child of what can be accomplished and what's possible, and understanding that we're on our way, or we are doing our best, and we're doing better and better, and you live in a beautiful home. And I have to my daughter goes all the time, I know, Mom, because some kids don't have toys, like, because I'm constantly reminding her
of how relative things are.
Yes,
right.
Yeah. And it's and I think that is the early perspective that they can get of the differences between how people live. Because if you're a child and all you see is one thing, like I remember at Country Day, we were turning 16. I wanted to get a car. I was getting a car, and I was talking to my friends about how we were looking at cars, but I had my car note. We had a budget for the car note. And one of my girlfriends went, "What is a car note?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What's a car note?" And she's like, What do you mean a note? And I'm like your monthly payment on the car. And she's like, "Why would you pay for a car monthly? Why don't you just buy it?"
Jeez.
She really had no clue that people pay car notes.
So get out my house.
Right. I'm like, but that, in a way, that limits her, from that understanding, from having
she doesn't
empathy,
understand, right?
And then how do you grow up that's how we get these like staunchy Republicans that don't really relate and say pull yourself up by your bootstraps. They just don't always really understand because
they don't get it. There's no reference to it.
Like, oh, you pay for a car monthly? What is that?
What is that?
Oh, poor you.
No one in my neighborhood bought a car outright if they weren't selling something that was illegal.
That was illegal.
So just full disclosure,
if something
right?
wasn't in the trunk.
Right. Exactly. So I can't relate to that. But it's super, it puts things in perspective. So, all right. So you are closing the
Cane and Couture, the
pet couture.
Yeah.
Company.
It's not really couture. Couture was a dog. Cane is my dog, and Couture was my girlfriend's dog that was going to be my partner.
That.
But I kept the name because it sounds like Canine Couture, and it was always like it had a little chime to it. But I'm closing it, and not because of any. I battled with this, and I'll be transparent. A part of me felt like it was a failure that I was closing it. I went on Shark Tank in 2015, and I got investment on television. But in real life, that didn't really go through. And as I reflect on that, I feel like I had Damon and Lori were my investors.
Okay.
And, you for the people who in that season win on Shark Tank, quote unquote, they're competing for the time with the sharks, because they're not only dealing with all these other businesses, because they have to deal with everyone who they invest in, but they're also still taping the show. And then another season comes and there are more people. So it's a constant competition.
Okay.
And as I reflect on it, I feel like I just really wasn't at that point in life. I was ready for a change. And I wasn't so passionate that I wanted to go so hard where I wanted to be like, we have to do this. I was allowing life to flow, and like, okay, if this works, then I'll go with it. That's my sign. But if this doesn't, then I was already starting to feel like I wanted to move in a different direction.
So it was no longer like a passion project anymore. It was more of a...
No, because by that time I had accomplished so much of what I set out to accomplish.
Right.
That I was just like, I built my business to the amount of success personally that was almost as far as I thought I could go. In order to take it where I was really competing with the big companies, I needed big investment. And if that wasn't going to happen, then I was fine with going in a different direction, which is what happened.
So, and I guess, so transferable skills, right? How would you define your natural ability? Like, what would you say if someone said, what are your natural abilities? What do you think that God blessed you with?
That's a good question. I'm naturally creative, and I think I can be creative to a point where, sometimes people get afraid to be creative, or they get afraid of what people are going to say about their ideas. I'll throw them out there. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
like, you can shoot them down if you want, but I'm throwing it out here anyway.
Right.
I'm really good with math and numbers. So I think I'm right and left brained in ways where some people are creative, but they don't really dig into the numbers and the strategy well.
Right.
I can do both, which was good and bad. Because I'm like, I can do everything. I'm fixing the pipes. I'm building.
Yeah.
I'm designing the clothes. I'm doing the numbers,
Right.
the P&Ls and everything. But I was doing so much that I kept working in my business and not on my business as much as I really could have in hindsight. But I developed so many transferable skills. I mean, from marketing to sales to pitching to doing trade shows, designing creativity, learning just so many of the different online tools and apps and things that I use to make my business go. Now in my new business, 39 Quartz, social wellness community.
Love it. Love it.
We're going to talk about that too.
So this is the pivot, right?
This is the
This is the
pivot.
pivot. The
This
pivot
is
is taking those natural abilities and those transferable skills that you learned with Cane and Couture, and now to 39 Quartz.
Yeah.
The name, where, how?
Right. People ask that. So quartz is one of the most commonly occurring minerals throughout different crystals, compounds, rocks, and things. It's got healing properties. It's beautiful. It makes me feel, I literally have some in my purse. I carry it with me. I'm an energy person. I'm just all about energy. And
Right.
and so even the molecular makeup of quartz is strong, and it's supposed to bring positive energy because of that. And so I love quartz, and I have it, and I carry it, and it's also for work. One of the properties of it is supposed to be that it brings positivity and productivity into your work life. And so I keep quartz around my house. I have crystals. I have an amethyst that has quartz in it as well.
Right.
And so as I was thinking of names, and I was thinking of all the positive energy that I wanted to bring to this new venture, quartz kept coming to me. And so 39 is my birthday's March 9th. I see 39 all the time. And so one day I was like trying to search for a name, and I'm like, I need a sign of what my name should be. And I look up 39, and it says angel number 39. And it goes on to describe how the angel number 39 represents healing, and it represents positivity and positive influence over others. And I was like, oh my God, that's submission behind my business.
Oh my God, that's
39
amazing.
Quartz.
Love
So it's
it.
the
I
Quartz
love it.
Wellness Collective. And the collective so Quartz Wellness Collective is a collective of wellness and coaches, practitioners, and experts that are focused on well-being. This could be from a professional coach to a natural food chef to a Reiki healer.
Okay.
I'm into all of this stuff. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the collective are the amazing people that I've met as I'm into all of this stuff.
Right.
And 39 Quartz, I do wellness events and retreats, and I'm sharing my collective of amazing people with this community that I'm building.
I love it. I love it. And I saw that you actually went on a retreat.
I did. I hosted a retreat.
You hosted
I
a
produced a retreat.
Right. And
yeah.
so tell us about that.
Yeah. So that was the start of it. So that's my that was one of my first bites out of the elephant.
Right.
So if I can back up for a second, I took when I started to realize my heart wasn't into Cane and Couture, I took some time, because I really think it's important to take time to reflect on our thoughts and to ask ourselves questions to check in with ourselves. So I took some time to check in with myself. What was it that I loved from Cane and Couture, and what was it that I didn't want to do anymore? What is it that I'm good at? What skills do I need to develop more? So I took classes, all types of different classes. I took over like a year.
Love it. So continuing to educate yourself and kind of like do some self-exploration.
Yeah, I did little mini internships. I would call up my friends who did cool things like, hey, can I come to work with you for a day?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Right.
So I was just exploring. I was like, what is it? What am I going to do? And I was pregnant at the time, so I had a little
bit of time to do it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had some time. I was just like, I'm going to just take this time to not only birth a child, but birth what's next for me.
Right. I love it.
So in doing that and asking myself what I would do if money weren't an issue, I've been reading books about positive thinking, personal development, professional development, self-help books, if you will.
Right. I'm a queen self-help book. Yeah,
I
I love a self-help book. Right.
Love the feeling of it.
Right.
Love sharing that information. Love talking to people about that. That was naturally like what I would be doing. And I remember thinking, like, I wish I could just get up in the morning and write and read. And not have to like run around and scurry and whatnot.
After children and like.
I still got to scurry after the kids.
Well,
But
right.
Thank God for them. They're not going anywhere. So, yeah.
That's how you feel like in real life.
Right. So in doing that, that's where I said, okay, and I love travel. So I said, okay, putting all those things together, I want to, and my husband's from Grenada. I said, I want to do a trip and take women to Grenada. And I want it to be like a positive situation. I want it to be like all positive talks and fun adventures and pushing them outside of their comfort zone. So I didn't want to do it by myself. And I met with a woman who was a friend of mine, a friend of a friend of mine. And she was she had a yoga certification, and she did PR. So I thought, okay, she wanted to do like a yoga retreat. And I'm like, well, I do yoga, but I'm not an expert. What if we do a wellness retreat? And so she liked the idea. We decided to do it together. And we had a company together to start, and under that company, we did the Glow Up Retreat in Grenada. We took 50 women for 4 days.
Wow, I thought it was like a lot. That was like 30, 50.
50. We sold out the resort. We booked a small resort. My friend was the manager at, because I'm in Grenada all the time because of my husband. So we booked the whole resort.
I married a man from Grenada. I'm like, my guy's from Memphis. Memphis is a little bit different.
It's not as
Grenada.
exotic.
Not nearly
That's okay.
as exotic.
You guys come with us on vacation.
Okay. All right. Cool.
We'll hang out. Yes, you can be honorary Grenadians.
Right, I'll take it.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
And
So
Sync 36 Mafia at like.
No, don't get me. We're on air. I can't say those things now.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Other cap.
I know.
Yes. So we did our wedding in Grenada.
Oh, awesome.
And we brought 50 people when we did our wedding. 45 people came from out of town. And everyone kept saying, you should do this trip again. This was such a good time. We did Grenada by land, Grenada by sea. So that was the basis of the retreat. And we promoted it. We got together with a popular blogger at the time. She helped promote it as well. And these people responded really well. They came with us. And it was an amazing time. And I left going, I love this. This is what I'm here for.
I got it.
This is my purpose. I got to do more of this. I think, we're at a stage where women especially, there's a lot more demand on us than there has been in the past. We're not just holding down the household. We're working. We're side by side with our husbands and with our, with society, like plunging along and building and grinding. But then we're still expected to cook dinner, keep the kids, keep the house together, and all the things that we have to do. There's a lot of demand on us, and we give so much to everyone else. But what's left for us?
Nothing.
And that's
oftentimes like 5 a.m. 5 a.m. is what we have. We have 5 a.m. when the house is asleep, and you get a chance to kind of look at yourself and just say,
until 6:22.
Until maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
You may not have a full hour and 22 minutes.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's great, and I think it's so necessary because we have a lot of pressure, and trying to juggle and wanting to be successful and wanting to inspire, right? I mean, I know that your story is so inspirational to so many people. So I love it. I love what you're doing with 39 Quartz. And so where can we find you? Like, what can we do in terms of how do we find more information about the...
Yes. So I have been slaving on this website with my amazing web designer. So we are just finished now. We just finished up yesterday. So I'm excited to announce the launch of, and I'll tell you a bit about what we have going on too. 39 Quartz, 39QUARTZ.com. Is the website, and 39 Quartz at 39 Quartz on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
And we have 3 retreats coming up this year. One is a professional wellness retreat that's called the Spirited Exec. It's in Connecticut. It's July 27th through the 29th. It's really focused towards millennials who want to come, and not just millennials, also older folks as well, but people that want to come out and find purpose in their work and what they're doing and look at how they can live a happier life with more of a work-life balance.
Love it.
How they can show up at work, be noticed, navigate through office politics, get a promotion, stand out, toot your horn without blowing it. Those are the type of things that we'll talk about
necessary.
there.
Where was this like 15 years ago?
I would have been there, right? I'm like, so I'm building what I would have been at.
No,
so
absolutely.
My coach, I have a career coach. She's an amazing, she's actually works more so with Fortune 500 execs, but somehow I got lucky enough to have her coach me.
Do share.
Yes, Michelle Brown, Into Action Coaching. She's the keynote speaker for the weekend and host, but we have a host of other professionals coming as well. And we'll also have some yoga. We have some hiking in the forest to lakes. So it's some excitement, and it's just a
kids
nice
or
weekend
just
getaway.
Adults?
No kids this weekend.
No kids this weekend. Okay.
But I have the Vibrate Higher Spiritual Wellness Retreat in Costa Rica.
Ooh.
Yes, and that's September 27th through October 1st. Kids and husbands can come. They won't be involved in the activities that we're doing, but it's an all-inclusive resort that has a lot of stuff for them to do. And we'll be working on connecting with our soul, connecting with a higher power, with aligning ourselves with the flow to activate the greatness in our lives.
Right.
Understanding how to dig deep, how to meditate, how to take the time. The retreats, a part of why I love doing the retreats is because we get so busy that we don't take the time, if we're at home, to always take the time to meditate. Like, I meditate, but it's so hard for a lot of people to get the time to
find
meditate.
the time. I think that's the biggest thing is, it's interesting. I had a previous guest who also really highlighted the importance of meditating. And it's just, for me, it's always been like, oh, I'm going to meditate. And then I like get into my zone. And then it's like, Mommy, I'm hungry. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
All right, I'll come back to
I
it.
should have started at 5 a.m.
Right. Like, why did I get up? I said I should have set the alarm.
Right.
All right. So wait, and the third one.
And the third one is the She Who Dares Summit, and it's a summit for women who dare in their professional lives, who forge ahead, who want to fortify themselves to show up at work, to be amazing, but to also be happy, be beautiful from the inside out. And that's in Anguilla, and that is November 8th through 12th. Yes.
And everyone can find out about all of these retreats on 39quartz.com.
Yes.
Right. And so we're just so you know, so we're going to feature all of this on our website.
Oh, yay.
And so make sure we actually market it and let people know about it.
And I hope you come. You got to come with us.
No, I need to come to
retreat.
something. So wait. So all right. Yeah. Now I'm focused. I'm working on it. I have enough lead time to figure this out.
Yes.
So at least one of them.
Yes.
And I can't wait. I hope I can make it
We
happen.
We could do the podcast there.
Oh, we could do a podcast.
Set up
there?
and do it. Yeah. You set up and
I
do
love
it.
it. I love this. And in Anguilla,
you
and
heard it here first.
It's a whole different vibe. It's like the wind is blowing, and you're like, it's a whole different like. Hey, we're going to Anguilla, guys.
Yes.
No. So this has been amazing. Again, Amber Forrester, 39quartz.com.
Yes.
Also on IG and Facebook at 39quartz. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I hope the listeners find her just as inspirational as she is to me. And I think you're amazing. So keep winning.
Oh, thank you. We'll keep winning together.
Right.
That's what it's about, having that tribe.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Try, baby. All right.
Yes.
This podcast was brought to you by 23DB Productions, ID Productions, and One of One Productions. For more information, go to Facebook and Instagram, Unexpected Success with Joy.